I've been using the Ace Pro for several weeks now, gathered a lot of insights and feedback to offer you. And what I will say at the outset is we all buy action cameras for different purposes. Some of us are 100% action, some of us never use these for an action scenario. It's more for lifestyle, travel, all that kind of stuff. So different criteria, different features will appeal to different people, which makes this conversation a little bit tricky to have. I'm just going to give you some information and opinions, and you'll need to make up your own mind what to do with it. Starting with the camera itself, the Ace Pro is quite a bit bigger than a GoPro or an Action 4. For me personally, I don't think that really matters, and I don't think that really matters to the broader action camera buying public. If you look at what happened with the Action 2 release, that small form factor wasn't really appreciated, came with some downsides in terms of overheating issues. So I've certainly got no issue with the size of this camera. I quite enjoy it, in fact, it just feels quite substantial. Flip out screen. In terms of practical considerations, it gives you a lot of latitude to get angles that you couldn't otherwise see before, which is genuinely useful when you can see the screen when the camera's down low. The screen is very responsive to the touch. With my fat fingers, it's unquestionably one of the best I've ever used. And this goes hand in hand with a very fast user experience. Even switching the camera on and off is very fast. It will always be there when you need it. Lack of a removable lens cover is not great for an action camera. I personally, since we bought the GoPro 4 however many years ago, have never actually broken or scratched an action camera lens, but then our action requirements are fairly light, so it completely depends on your use case scenario. Mindful of that though, Insta360 are offering free lens cover replacements within a year of purchasing the camera. Not a single reliability issue with the Insta360 Ace Pro. No need to hard reset a frozen camera by pulling the battery out, no recordings that won't stop recording, any of that kind of stuff. Always keep a little power pack with you, because especially if you're having this connected to the app and you're doing a lot of live previewing on your phone while you're recording, it does drain the battery. So when you're out and about, useful to have a power bank or of course extra batteries, but that's the same for any action camera. Speaking of the app, this is one area where Insta360 pulls out a lead for sure. They have a great fun app that's been really well refined over the years, works for the 360 cameras and also for the action cameras. Connectivity between the camera and the app is fast, no laggy issues and failed connections and all that kind of stuff that you used to see back in the day. You can very quickly view your videos and your photos in the app again. It's fast and just enjoyable to use. They can quickly be brought into the editor of the app, which has a whole ton of features I'll talk about in a minute. It's easy to export and you have full control of those exports all the way up to 4K, high bit rates and all that kind of stuff. Lots of accessories kind of linked to this conversation. We have this remote control watchy type thing, which in an action scenario is absolutely brilliant. I was out on some e-bikes there for the first time. So much fun, great for my little legs, and I was able to use this watch continuously to check my exposure and to check my composition, because when the camera is mounted on the bike or on your helmet or on your chest, this flip out screen doesn't really serve any purpose and you can't see what's going on. The watch was absolutely great. Lovely little bit of kit. So in terms of accessories, I would definitely recommend the watch. Like I say, the app is absolutely jammed with features. One in particular that I want to bring your attention to is the motion blur ND effect. I was very excited when I saw this because we were about to pay up over $100 for a plugin that would allow us to get motion blur on our action camera footage. Quick recap, action camera footage does not have motion blur. If you want the amazing electronic image stabilization, you need a fast shutter speed to eliminate the motion blur so the software can realign those frames in the camera, thereby eliminating the shake and vibrations. That does away with motion blur, makes the footage look not very cinematic. You have to add it back in post. This is not very easy to do. Now inside the app, you can do it. And for me, this has solved a huge pain point of action cameras. And to be honest with you, a big reason why I wouldn't reach for an action camera, because the footage looks like it's from an action camera. It doesn't look like it's from what I would call a proper camera. Now, if you can add back motion blur in the app, you can turn your action camera footage into something that looks cinematic, for want of a better word. Big fan of that. Great addition tucked away there in the app. And just an example for me of how Insta are innovating, adding. I think it's quite generous given that we have to pay for this out with the Insta360 app. So good job, Insta. The audio quality of both these cameras is very good. Just be careful though, on the Insta360 Ace Pro you have 3 settings: stereo, wind noise reduction and direction focus. Stereo and direction focus work beautifully, but obviously there has to be no wind. If there's wind, you can try the wind noise reduction. It makes things sound a little bit underwater, but if you have a controlled environment where you're not going to be troubled with the wind noise, yes, the audio quality is absolutely fantastic.
How does it sound? Does it peak? Does it have some auto gain control?
If you want to use an external microphone with the Ace Pro, you need to use the mic adapter. Very easy to do. However, the Action 4 is going to take some beating. Now it has Bluetooth connectivity between itself and the new DJI Microphone 2. Both these cameras have exactly the same 48 megapixel sensor from the same manufacturer. However, DJI and Insta360 have opted to use those sensors in completely different ways. Because a 1/1.3 inch sensor with 48 megapixels results in quite tiny 1.2 micron pixels, DJI opts to combine 4 pixels into one for a combined pixel size of 2.4 microns, therefore enhancing the low light capability of the camera, all that kind of stuff. So that turns that sensor into an effective kind of 12 megapixel sensor. Now, Insta360 has the same technology going on in there, but by unlocking the full 48 megapixel sensor, we get 8K resolution if we want it. We get the ability to do a clarity zoom sensor crop into the middle of that sensor for a lossless 4K zoom if you like. We also have the free video functionality where the sensor records the full image, and then in post you can decide whether or not to take the vertical part of the image, the horizontal part of the image, so on and so forth. The headline-grabbing low-light performance that you see everyone talk about relates to standard video in real-time frame rates of 24, 25 and 30 frames per second. And also pure video, which is like an automated beginner's mode, if you like, of those frame rates, which also gives that extra special low-light performance. Let's call these the combined pixel modes because, like the Action 4, the Ace Pro uses pixel binning to increase the sensitivity and improve low-light performance of the sensor. Look at these two clips comparing the Ace Pro and the Action 4. Manual exposure settings 100 ISO. The shutter speeds are completely different. The Ace Pro is gathering a ton of extra light compared with the Action 4. In low light environments, you can use pure video to optimize your results. The camera essentially adds a fair bit of noise reduction and sharpening in all the right places to get a good image in these low light circumstances. Here's another shot done in pure video, full automatic settings, and you can see when we compare it with the Action 4, we're already up on 800 ISO. This is a dark environment and the pure video is yielding tremendous low light benefits. What about those unlocked single pixel modes like 8K video clarity zoom and free frame? Well, what's quite amazing is when we use clarity zoom, for example, the light gathering capability of the Ace Pro is quite similar to the full combined pixel modes of the Action 4. So whatever they've done with these Leica optics and the f2.6 and maybe some trickery inside the camera, I don't know, but it does result in a better low light performance across the board. Now that's good if you're shooting in dark, that's fine, but where for me it has tremendous value is it extends the usable range of the electronic image stabilization. See, sometimes if you're doing mountain biking in the woods, you need a shutter speed of 1,000th of a second or higher. That places a tremendous demand on the low light capability of a camera, mindful that you should be on a shutter of 1/50th of a second, letting tons of light in to get nice motion blur. But we can't, we need that fast shutter speed, no motion blur for the electronic image stabilization to work. And that's why we need light gathering capability inside these Action cameras. And we do have genuine progress here with the Insta360 Ace Pro. At the time of making all this content, the magical 4K light gathering capability in regular video is only available shooting in HDR. Now, a firmware update is coming so you can also shoot regular non-HDR footage. I love the HDR stuff, it looks really cool and it's genuinely helpful in terms of retaining dynamic range, certainly in bright skies. And it does look good if you see a side-by-side comparison. However, it can be a little bit harsh on skin tones, and a lot of you are using these cameras for vlogging, so we need a nice image of people's faces. If you're shooting anything that does not involve a close-up of someone's face, then both these cameras create gorgeous images. You need to be a real kind of pixel-peeping nuisance to spot the difference, if I'm honest. However, when it comes to shooting faces fairly close up, the Insta360 does have a more digitally sharpened, noise-reduced image, and I think it impairs the quality of the rendition of someone's face. The features get a little bit blocky and less appealing, to be honest with you. If that's really important to you, then great, but we've got to keep in mind these are Action cameras. So here we have increased low light performance, we have clarity zoom, which doubles the shooting capabilities of this camera. I suspect that they are more important pain points than pixel peeping close-up headshots. Quick word on the minimum focusing distance. There's only a problem if you hold the camera this close to your face, which is within the 40 centimeters minimum focusing distance. Don't do it. You need to be out with the 40 centimeters and you'll be fine. I'll get to what I think is about 40 centimeters, probably about that. Am I in focus? Now I'll get too close. I'm definitely about 30 centimeters away now. 20 centimeters away. Not a flattering field of view for portrait. I personally think the Ace Pro has a more pleasing field of view. The native image from the Action 4 is wider, and as a consequence, if you want to come into those more realistic, more natural fields of view, all these adjustments are digital, which erodes the quality of the image. For the Action 4 to get into a standard dewarp field of view, there's a lot of cropping going on there and a lot of stretching of the image. That certainly around the periphery of the frame erodes the quality of the image, less so with the Ace Pro. Both these cameras have pretty impressive high ISO performance. If we go up to 800, 1600 ISO, the image from both is very, very good. When we start pixel peeping, you can see that the Action 4 image is much more noisy, whereas there's a ton of digital noise reduction applied to the Insta image. But either way, unless we're pixel peeping, you can use these higher ISOs in regular shooting environments. There's no 10-bit color on the Ace Pro because the new chip that's in the camera does not handle it. So as far as I'm aware, there's no prospect of that coming. Now, 10-bit color doesn't give you extra dynamic range, it just gives you extra color depth when you're color grading. Absolutely love it, massive fan. But I'm a pixel peeper geek, so it totally depends on whether this is important to you. We have a flat color profile in here. It's not a log profile, it's just a basically color corrected normal color profile. So here's a little bit of a drawback with these cameras if you are really getting into this kind of stuff, which to be honest with you, I do. The majority of the action buying camera public does not. But when it comes to color profiles, yeah, the win goes to the Action 4. There's some very nice additional functions in here, like the pause recording, which allows you to then swipe in and change your settings mid-shot. You can tag on extra footage to a previously recorded clip. You can go through and capture AI highlights in there, so it cuts out all the rubbish on either side waiting for you to come into the frame, for example. It just goes on, and in that respect, the Ace Pro is a much more fun camera. There's so much more depth to it because it has all these extra modes and functions in the camera and in the app. But in some respects, that makes it a slightly more complicated experience because you have to dig through it all and figure out which mode and setting is right for your given scenario. Trying to wrap up this probably very long review, anything that makes you reach for a camera is a good thing. The DJI Action 4 is not something I go to unless I have a specific action requirement. The extremely wide field of view is brilliant for mountain biking shots, action, all that kind of stuff, but it's limited to that as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't really use this camera for vlogging or more general purpose filming. Now, by comparison, we have more of a hybrid solution here in the Ace Pro. Do not underestimate the value of having that clarity zoom 4K sensor crop in the middle of the image. Out with action scenarios, we don't really want all that distorted stuff around the edge of the frame. But on the Action 4, in order to crop in, we lose a ton of resolution. Here, we don't. I personally think it's a great addition to the action camera world. We don't need another identical kind of GoPro style camera. Here we have some innovation and variety and some extra features that just bring something to the party. So in my opinion, big round of applause to Insta for innovating and bringing something new to the table. I know a lot of you have a lot of experience and a lot of comments to share on this topic, so please communicate below. Learn a lot from you guys as well, and we will see you in the next video.